Welcome back to Haddonfield Horrors podcast, where we review horror movies and horror movie franchises. I'm your host, Mark,
And I'm Kennedy.
and today we're once again joined by Maria and Tuan because they're going to help us rank the Scream movies. We've watched and reviewed the first four movies in the Scream franchises, and since part 5 isn't out yet, we're going to rank the ones we've already seen and reviewed. So, I'm going to kick us off. In my fourth spot, fourth being the worst movie in my opinion. Here we go. In my fourth spot, I have Scream 4 as what I think is the worst of the four Scream movies. Not the worst, but I feel like for it to be the fourth movie and for it to come out almost 10 to 11 years after the third one, I feel like they need to go bigger. And yes, having Jill, the whole ending with Jill, with her like hurting herself, was amazing. That's a plus. But one of the big three needed to die. Like there's been a 10-year gap, and you're supposed to be the start. That was supposed to be the start of a brand new trilogy. They needed to go big, and since they kind of had already set it up, they should have. I even though I would have hated it, but if they would have killed Gale, it would have been like a big thing. I mean, I wouldn't have. I would rather they killed Dewey, but Dewey never actually had a confrontation with the killer. But Gale did. Gale was stabbed by the killer, and I feel like they pulled their punches, and it wasn't as big as it could have been. It was all flashy with not that much substance, so that's why I have Scream 4 at the bottom of the barrel. Maria, what about you? What's in your fourth spot?
I actually, it was Scream 4, and it was basically the same reasons as you. It wasn't as like interesting, honestly. It wasn't as like, I mean, the only thing that I really, really liked about the film was just that one scene with Jill, like, beating herself up. That was really cool.
Yeah, that's the saving grace of the film. Her and that and
Yeah, I
Kirby.
was just about to say Kirby too. Like, that, but that's it, Dewey was Dewey. Gail was for some reason having to prove herself again in this movie, which I thought was dumb. Um, I hated Judy, the deputy. I didn't like her either. Um, and honestly, Jill, like as the killer, I don't really know how I feel about it. But I don't. Well, I guess I don't really feel much about it, like honestly. So it didn't really. It didn't really leave an impression on me the way the other movies did.
Kennedy, what about you? What's in your fourth spot?
Yeah, so for me, I am going against the norm here because I like all of them overall. My expectations for horror is pretty low, um, but I actually think my least favorite one is actually Scream 3 because I just don't think that the killer was justified. I hate like because I didn't like how like the killer in that movie, Sydney's brother. I think as cool as it would have been, I think it had potential, but like the fact that he's in like two scenes for 5 seconds, I don't like that kind of trope where it's like this character that that only appears in one scene is the killer. At least in this situation, even though I don't like Emma Roberts as an actress, but I just felt like I understood her arc more. I think there was more motivation there. So it makes her being the killer a little bit more. It makes it feel more earned than the brother that Sydney had that she never knew and is in the movie for one scene. Um, I think that's one of the biggest reasons why I prefer Scream 4 than Scream 3. Yeah.
Tuan, what about you? What's in your fourth spot?
I'm going to agree with Kennedy as well and say that yeah, Scream 3 is definitely in my fourth spot for the movies. To me, it it never really like carried for me. Like it's one of those in the franchise that I felt was like the least interesting in my opinion. And also, I agree with Kennedy as well. As like Roman really wasn't a good Ghostface. Like I really did not care at all for his reveal or him being Ghostface when it like came out. I was like, oh okay, this guy is the one who's been doing everything. I also did not like the like Sydney was like seeing apparitions of her mother. Like that made no sense to me, and it
That
didn't
was
come back.
weird.
And yeah, that was weird. It didn't come back. But I will say the saving grace of that movie was Gale and Fate Gale. They were the best part of that movie, and if they had their own movie together, that would be
The
that
spinoff
would
we
be
needed and
yeah.
deserved.
If that they had a spinoff together, I would have put that over Scream 3 as well.
So, Tawan, since you were already up, tell us what's in your third spot.
My third spot is going to be Scream 2. Um, I
Really? Scream 2?
Yep, Scream 2 is going to be in my third spot. So I'd like Scream 2, but I also kind of with 3, like the killer reveal really wasn't doing much for me. Um, the plot line of like Sydney being in the play and stuff was like I felt like that was kind of random. I guess they needed something to like give her something to do, so we just like weren't looking at her being being an investigator trying to figure out who the killer is the whole movie. But that felt like really random. Um, Also, the fact that Randy had to die as well, I didn't want that obviously. But so that was like another reason. But yeah, Scream 2, like it was like it's still good. Like I personally I think Scream 3 to me is like bad, but I think Scream 2 was like it's like good. It's just like personal rankings. It definitely would go on like my third spot of like ranking all of them. But it still holds up, and I still always have a good time watching it when I do. But just that personal enjoyment for 2 wasn't as strong as like the other 2 that we're gonna talk about later.
I think, well, surprisingly, Scream 2 was also in my third spot. And for the simple fact that it's more of the same, but not in a good way. Because when Canadian and I were ranking the Halloween franchise, I actually said I couldn't choose between Halloween 1 and Halloween 2, the originals. I couldn't choose between those two, so I put them both like tied for the first spot. Because I'm like, you for me, I have to watch the second one if I watch the first one because the second one completes the first one. It tells a whole rounded story. But with Scream 2, it just feels like they're just repeating the same beats, and then they just like threw in Randy's death for like shock value. Cause like Dewey and Gale are still doing that flirtatious fighty thing. Sydney punches Gale again. Dewey gets stabbed again, and then the final showdown you have the two killers, Sydney and Gale, involved in it again, and then you have the random third person, but instead of it being Randy this time, now it's Cotton. Like it was all just like the same thing over, and it just didn't add anything to the story. It didn't really take anything away. It was just more of the same. What did you think, Maria? What's in your third spot? Surprise us.
In my third spot was Scream 3. Actually, I kind of just didn't really like how. Well, I mean, I liked the whole motive of like the of the killer. Um, I don't know, but like the whole movie like just didn't really do it for me. I felt very like kind of like disconnected in a way. Um, I felt like the reveal at the end was kind of like surprising, and you don't really see it like throughout the movie, I guess. Um, I don't know. It was like the beginning of the movie is just was kind of boring, and then at the end is where it kind of like picks up because you find out she has a half brother this whole time, and he's crazy, and then her mom, and but then that's it, and then she kills him, and yeah, and then that was it. But I guess the reason why I like Scream 3 more than like Scream 4 was because it kind of like went along with the whole blaming Maureen thing as the first two movies, so it kind of flowed a little bit more. But yeah.
Candy, what about you? What's in your third spot?
Yeah, for me, my third spot would be Scream 4. Um, why do I put it there? I mean, in terms of the quality, I don't think it compares to the second one or the first one. Um, there's this strange filter that the movie has that makes it look like the whole thing is like a flashback. I don't know if you guys like
Yes,
noticed
yes,
it.
I've said
bad.
that. I've said that as well. That is one thing I
I
noticed.
heard
It
I
looks
heard
like
someone say that. I heard someone say it looks like the someone smeared Vaseline on all
yes.
the fucking cameras.
Yeah, yeah, just a strange choice of filter that just I don't know makes it look more like a TV movie more than anything else, and but it does have its balance of well, to me, I guess, characters that I like and also some characters that I don't like. Um, like I said, I don't really like Emma Roberts as an actress. Nothing personal to her, but I do think that her killer, like I said, had a lot more motivation than than um, than Sydney's brother in the third one. But I still think Timothy Olyphant from the Scream 2 was more interesting because he's just like a crazy ass motherfucker, and I kind of like that. And also Billy Loomis's mom, which I talked about in the review how I didn't like that surprise either, but it is what it is. Um, Another character that I liked was Hayden Panettiere. Not a good actress, but I don't know, she just kind of came off likable to me in this one.
She's very
Uh,
likable.
yeah, she was really likable in this movie, which was surprising. There, well, I heard that there was like a rumor that apparently her character was coming back in this new one, but I don't know if that's true or not. It's really just a rumor. Um, but I'm a sucker. I'm a sucker for these types of movies where it's like they bring back the cast from like 10 years later. So getting to see Sydney again and some other reprising cast, I can only imagine how much more epic it would have been like being in the theater as like a hardcore Scream fan compared to someone like me that like really only started watching it this year for the podcast. But um, I thought the beginning intro sequence with the stab movies and all the fake outs was really good too. Um, yeah, it's, so I think for me, really, reason why I put it in third place is because I think that there's a balance of characters I like and characters that I think are bad. So, but yeah.
Well, for me, in my second spot. No, are we on second? Oh yeah, we are on my second spot. I have Scream 3, which might shock some, if not all. But I have Scream 3 as my second all time favorite Scream movie because I feel like it completes the story for me. It completes the Marine story for me. I mean, because you hear her be like, more so in the first movie, she slut shamed so much, that poor woman. And then in the third movie, you find out that she was like assaulted and pretty much raped in Hollywood and had a kid out of that like horrible thing that happened to her, and she was just trying to find a way to like navigate. So she like gave him up because she didn't want that constant reminder, which I don't blame her for. And she probably became promiscuous later in life because she was trying to like take back that sexual control that she lost in her youth. And I love Gail and Jennifer. I feel like I understand Roman's like reasoning for becoming Ghostface and doing all the killing. I just feel like we needed to see more of Roman, and I kind of would have liked the interaction between Roman and Sydney before the big reveal. But for how they treat Marine and treat Marine's story, it pushes it above part 4 and part 2 for me. But what about you, Tuan? What's in your second spot?
So for me, my second spot is gonna be Scream 4. I personally really like Scream 4. I would say like besides the first one, um that is the one that gets like my second most enjoyment like watching it back. Um I will say it does have definitely has its flaws in it as well. I was not a fan of Officer, I think it was Judy. I think that was her name. I really was not a fan of her character. Um, I felt they really tried to like prop her up as like a red herring character for us to think she may have been Ghostface, and it was not being sold to me at all.
She was Dewey with boobs, and I didn't like it.
That also is very true. She was very much like Dewey throughout the movie and trying to like steal Dewey from Gale or whatever. So that was like weird. But yeah, her character was not really doing it for me. Um, but I did like the Ghostface reveal with it being Jill. I absolutely love that scene of her like fucking herself up in the house, so she could like make it look like she was hurt, doing like her own kind of like Billy and Stu moment, basically. Um, Personally, for me, I like Emma Roberts as an actress, and I feel like as she's like one of those people who a lot here is like nice, but she's very good at playing like bitchy roles. So like when she like kind of switched that on for like Jill's persona towards the end of the movie, I thought that was pretty good. I also loved the character of Kirby. Yeah, hated Panettiere's character. I loved her character. She was like Kennedy said earlier. She was very likable throughout the whole movie, and I did not want her to die. And since Wes Craven, before he passed, confirmed she's not dead, I do hope she does make a return in whatever new trilogy they decide to do, possibly with these new movies. Um, I also do agree. I felt one of the big three could have died. They kind of set it up to be Gale, and it could have went with that. But since it didn't, I still don't have any issue with her being alive. But I felt they could have done it, and I also felt some of the kills were a bit more gory, especially I think when their friend like Olivia got killed in the movie. That kill was pretty gory for like a Scream movie, I would say. Like they basically had like her whole like organs are just falling out of her body or like showing. And I would say probably final thing, I personally like the double fake out beginning sequence. Now I will say it was like if I was in their universe and I was watching an actual stat movie and they showed me the beginning of a different stat movie, I would be very confused and wondering why they did that. But overall, I kind of like the opening and where they went with it, and they were trying to like be meta, of course, which is Scream's thing. But yeah, Scream 4 was my second best.
What about you, Kennedy? What's your second best?
Yeah, my second best easily would be Scream 2. I know that you mentioned like that you like Scream 3 more because it kind of finally did something different. But I'm the type of guy, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Um, and that's really certainly what Scream 2 does. But seeing Leaf Schreiber, uh, great actor, seeing Cotton is always cool. I like his character and kind of getting to learn more about him in this movie after being hyped up in the first one. Um, Timothy Oliphant, Mickey, I think. Ooh, like I like this character motivation. I think it doesn't have to be complex or anything like that. Uh, Maybe you disagree with like the reasoning of like, oh well, video games, movies are making him evil, but I mean, there's some people that are actually like that would believe that sort of stuff. So, uh, I like Mickey and like the mom being the second killer. Um, like I like the premise. I just would have wanted to see more of her. Like I've reiterated like a bunch of times, but if we saw her more throughout the movie, if she was more involved, um, I think I would have liked her character as the killer more. I just don't think that her part was justified. I think it would have worked better if Mickey was just the only killer and just be like, yeah, because I'm crazy, I'm gonna blame movies. I would have accepted that explanation. Um, yeah, I mean, there's some good sequences throughout this movie too. When Dewey gets stabbed when they're getting chased on campus, and it's like the first time and many times when you think that Dewey gets killed, but at least here it's like the only the second time that you see, so it's not as annoying as it is in future movies. Uh, yeah, I just like this movie. I saw this movie right after the first one because I really enjoyed it and I wasn't disappointed. So, it keeps it safe, it keeps it simple. There's not really more to talk about because it does keep it simple, but I still enjoy this movie. Probably it's probably my second favorite one for sure.
Marie, what about you? What's your second best Scream movie?
My second best would be Scream 2. Um, I don't know what I like. I really liked the movie. I liked the idea of Billy's mom being the killer and trying to, in a way, like avenge him, and at the same time, she's blaming um, Sydney's mom. Um, I liked like I liked Randy's killing in this movie. I think that's my favorite kill of like the whole series in general. Um, I liked Gail here too. How her and Sydney were kind of trying to like, in a way help each other out here. It's kind of like their start of, it's kind of like the start of, Gail's like development. Um, and then the whole, crazy, movie nerd being, the killer. I thought watching it for the first time, it was interesting. Um, to say this guy was crazy, and then to have, Billy's mom, you know, double cross him at the end was also great. I thought was great. Though I do kind of agree about the whole like theater thing going on with Sydney was kind of weird. Like kind of like thinking back about it.
It's so out
Yeah,
of
yeah, it's
place.
weird because
We never even saw the director again. At least the principal was killed in the first movie. The director never comes back up.
yeah, exactly. Like honestly, I didn't really think about it the first time I saw it. I was just like, okay, I guess she's always into acting, and now she's kind of an actor, and now she apparently has a lead role. And then to kind of have the kill be in the movie, like I mean in the theater, was also kind of weird, especially because I feel like there's no real significance for that. I also liked the fake out where the best friend made Sydney think that, oh, like maybe it is your boyfriend again, and she had to like rethink it, and it turns out it wasn't, and then he shoots him. But yeah, I like Scream 2 as my second best. It was really close to being my first, but that whole theater thing was just kind of, now I can't stop thinking about it now.
Well, due to process of elimination, I can see that we all have left Scream 1 in our top spot, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah.
I feel like you can't.
Yep.
I have to go back to like Sydney's line to Jill in Scream 4. You don't fuck with the original. It's just, I mean, Scream 96 is credited with saving and revitalizing the horror genre. Like, this movie is responsible for, well, I don't want to say it's kind of responsible for all the trashy horror movies we had in the 2000s, but without that, we wouldn't have the horror resurgence we're having now. Like, it started a new wave of horror movies, which there was good, like I Know What You Did Last Summer, and then there's bad, like Urban Legend. But you
I
gotta take the
I
good
was
with the
thinking
bad.
the exact same movie too. That's so funny. Urban Legends was so fucking bad.
Well, Urban Legends, the first one is watchable. Like, it's so good it's bad to watch. It's one of those kind of horror movies.
Yeah,
But part 2 is like trash. Like, I can't.
that's
sit
so
through
funny.
part
I was
2.
thinking the exact same movie.
But why is Scream 4 in your guys' top spot?
Scream 1 is, I don't. It's just like something about it. I really don't know. Like it's like I never get tired of watching it. Like it's one of those movies I can really just put on anytime and like have a good time watching it. Um, it's honestly like it's overused, but it's definitely like an iconic movie to just have. And none of the other movies, like even if I do like them, like Scream 2 and 4, they just like don't they just haven't lived up to like Scream 1. It just like felt very different. Um the comedy in it was good. Like it was like the meta comedy that was in it was very good. It like worked for the movie. The opening kill, the way they went about that was like very new, and how they like killed off Drew Barrymore, who was like huge at the time. So it took like some risk and with the way that they went about things, and um, it also just felt like kind of like a real thing that could happen as well. Since I believe it was like based on some like real murderer or something like that that the writers based it off of, if I recall properly. That's what I believe, but do not remember for sure. But yeah, it just had like a real feel to it, and I liked all the actors in the movie. Everybody like did their part. Um, and I like most of the kills in the movie except Tatum's. She could have really not gone through the dog door. But it will never not be funny though. It's literally the funniest thing I ever seen now. Her going through that dog door to try to get away from death. But yeah, it's just something about Scream One. It always holds up. I never have a bad time watching it, and it's definitely like always one of those movies I watch around Halloween time. When I want to just put something on to get in the mood for the season.
For me, I think in particular when it comes to Billy and Stu and the killer in general is while all the future movies tried really, really hard to make numerous characters like make you think like are they the killer? I think this one's the only one where it really builds up Cotton to be that red herring killer. But and then it turns out to be these two guys that you never would have thought, and we just spent so much time with them. So, um, killers that you truly didn't expect, and it really made it feel worth it. Um, yeah, I just think that when you're trying to make way too many characters look suspicious, like in Scream 4, like I know, like some of you mentioned, like wow, they really made Judy look, Deputy Judy look suspicious, or in Scream 2, is Jerry O'Donnell Sydney's boyfriend? Is he the killer? Is it the boyfriend again? Um, I think it takes a little bit away from the killers at the end. But I think what makes this movie really work is it never really draws them into question. You're just kind of with them throughout the whole film, and you really only build up Cotton as like, oh, is he the guy that killed Sydney's mom? Did he escape? Is he the one that's killing all these people in Woodsboro? So I think that's one of its strongest things that I don't think that this franchise has been able to replicate ever since.
It was my top pick because I think it's just a classic. It's definitely a movie you kind of have to watch. Like, it's a movie that I wouldn't mind watching multiple times. Billy and Stu, are great. Stu's hilarious. The whole motive was also kind of, I don't know, it's just something like you wouldn't really have guessed, but it kind of like makes sense because everyone was calling, Marina whore. I also I liked Dewey in this one because he was young and he was a little more innocent. I thought the killings in this one were kind of like a little more creative than the other ones. I also really liked Randy in this one too. And I like Sydney here too. I think it made her more of like a, 'cause I feel like after her whole like she's fighting off like killer after killer, you kind of forget that she's like young and she's basically like a teenager while it happens. And I feel like in this movie she's really, you kind of like see it that she's young, she's basically kind of innocent, and having to go through that really formed her mindset and her personality with the movies to come.
Yeah, this franchise definitely gives you. I feel like it gives you a good balance of like two movies every fan really likes, and then two movies every fan is like, eh. So it's been a good balance. But that's our Scream ranking, folks. Join us in 2 weeks for our Scream 5 predictions. Thank you all. The Haddonfield Horrors Podcast is a Letters to Media production.
Should we do an intro?